Welcome to Real Women's Stories. Today's topic is all about being an inadequate mum. So I really want to unpick motherhood.
And when the teenage years hit, I was just like, oh my God. I've just never felt so inadequate in all my life.
Being a mum.
I've now reached, I'm turning 40 this year, and I'm starting to understand those feelings.
And are we inadequate mums?
We're all questioning ourselves whether we're adequate constantly as soon as we wake up. As soon as we enter into that playground, that school playground, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing that? In itself is a feeling of inadequacy.
So with Mother's Day just around the corner, I think this is a perfect time to be having this conversation. This is Real Women's Stories. I'm going to be interviewing Hayley Brown, who has a podcast called Inadequate Mother. And together we are going to be unpicking what that means to Hayley and also what that means to me. And we are both from kind of different backgrounds as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting to find out her views versus my views. It's going to be a bit uncomfortable at times because I'm sure there are situations that we're going to be discussing that are going to take me back to those times where I really didn't feel like a great mum at all. So yeah, am I an inadequate mum? Let's find out. So Hayley, I am absolutely super excited to unpick this episode with you. So the podcast is called Inadequate Mother. And when I read that title, it meant a lot to me, but I really want to understand what that means to you, because how does that word sum it up for you as a mother?
I was thinking for ages what to call it, and that when I came up with it, my immediate thing was to ask my friends, what do you think about this name? And all my friends went, oh my goodness, I could relate to that. I'd click on that. So that initially was it, but there's a lot of personal reasons why I've called it Inadequate Mother and why I'm really rolling it out big time. And I think I've just been on a journey recently. My daughter's just turned 18, and I was always that super mom that did it and, was kicking it as a mom and smashing it. And what made it so easy to be an adequate and amazing mom is because I just had these really incredible kids that were just academic, beautiful, sporty. They were like lead role of the play. And I would have like these parents come over and say, they're a credit to you, they're a credit to you. And then when the teenage years hit, I was just like, oh my God, I've just never felt so inadequate in all my life. And that ran deeper for me because of how I lost my mum when I was 25. And I think there's definitely a conversation around mums that have lost their mum and how that internally will leave you feeling like you're inadequate because you haven't got that kind of backup. It's like motherhood, you're a line of mums. You're not just a one mum, you're a line. And when that line breaks, there's a feeling of like brokenness. But it was also how I lost her, and I lost her to alcohol addiction. Being 25, having this death certificate handed to you that says your mom's died, cause of death, alcohol consumption and depression. I was just like, no, that can't be. Like, she didn't just break. And I think from the age of 25 up till now, I've just been really, I think, wanting answers as to why she broke. And yeah, that feeling inadequate just was within her. And, obviously got to an extreme level where she drank. I've now reached, I'm turning 40 this year, and I'm starting to understand those feelings as to why she felt inadequate. So I just thought, sorry, I'm going to call the podcast Inadequate Mother, and I'm going to unpack this for my sake and hopefully for other mums.
And what was life like before mum passed away?
My childhood had been quite turbulent. Both my parents had separated. My mum was a single mum to two girls as well. So me and my sister lived with my mum. And yeah, it was just very things that I can relate to now as a mum with two girls. It was the dynamics between having three menopausal women in the house that were maybe not as emotionally as secure and healthy as they could be. It was hard. So I think I just very much wanted to get out of that as soon as I could. And I met my kid's dad very young and was just like, this is my future kind of thing. And I had my first daughter when I was 20. And yeah, I was just determined to just be the best mom I could possibly be. And also save my mom. I kind of wanted her to have a reason to be a good grandma and an adequate grandma, and have, not, feel the need to drink and things, and give her a cause to kind of recover and get well. And it just didn't happen. And yeah, I think I was riddled with a lot of guilt and feeling of failure from then. The fact that I couldn't help her. And I just put all my energy into just trying to be this incredible mom. And very much like I think any single mother would relate to just putting on that independent supermom cape and just making sure their kids didn't go without, despite there just being a single parent household. And I just have to say, like, my kids have got their dad around, and I did have a lot of support from family. There's mums out there that completely on their own. Like, I couldn't, without a doubt, have done what I've done with my kids, because they're amazing, without all the support that I've had.
You said that looking at your mum and being around your mum and looking at or having experienced situations that you were in, you were determined to start a life for yourself and bring children into this world and try and recreate that in a more positive way.
Yeah, I think anyone that goes through any trauma will have at the forefront of their mind, I'm not going to let that trauma happen to my child. And I think I just want to bring to the surface a little bit more that you are your trauma. Like, we can be more successful. We can, fight our way through life better, and we can achieve more, and we can, handle things in a better way and not have the same bad habits and things like that. But ultimately, what you've experienced and what you've been through has made you who you are. So I think it really is about us just understanding that this kind of buzzword we have, like, with breaking the generational trauma, we have to just, I think, unpick that a bit more, because we are beautifully inadequate. We are beautifully almost broken. And we just have to embrace that in a way that strengthens ourselves, because we know that we are drawn to people that are vulnerable. We're not drawn to these super moms with capes on that are kicking ass and doing this and doing that. We're not drawn to that. We're drawn to vulnerability. And yeah, I just want to encourage mums to just be more vulnerable and to just be able to say, yeah, I had a shit time and this is what I'm unpacking. And like, instead of trying to think, nope, that's not going to happen with my kids. No, I'm not going to, because I'm telling you, it will unpack, it will unravel the minute shit gets thrown at you in life, or the minute your kids reflect you, because they are just mini yous, and you can't hide from them. When they're teenagers, they see you for what you are. They see every little nook and cranny you possess, and it will come to the surface. So just learning to embrace it and talk about it and find the right language to talk about it in a healthy way.
That's really powerful what you've just said. And because it's all about accepting our imperfections, but the imperfections that we have are just learnings that we're going through as parents and as mums, and everyone's situation is very, very, very different. And I think that as women, and you mentioned, you know, your mum, I remember when I first split up from my first husband, I had a bit of therapy because I had some trauma associated to it. And the one thing she said to me was, you know, your mum, because she's given birth to you, will think that you are a replica of her, and she will find it quite hard to not, I mean, especially back in those generations, to accept that you are different. So Hayley, you broke that mold. I know that I made changes, and I think as mums and as daughters, we go down through generations and we start to make those changes, and they may not necessarily be the right choices that we make, but we try and learn from what we've been through as kids with our mums, and then try and obviously change that and shift that kind of journey and those behaviors that obviously that we've seen from our parents. So I understand it. You know, you met the baby dad of your first of your children, and then that relationship fell apart. How old were the kids when you broke from their dad?
I think because I met my partner, my ex, very young, it was always kind of in the back of your head that this isn't going to sustain. And there was a few times that we tried to part ways for the sake of, you know, the kids, in terms of them not being around an unhealthy relationship. But because of life being so difficult at the time, and anyone in their 20s, you know, 20s is, it's just horrendous, isn't it? Like, you couldn't pay me.
Worst decade is the
Yeah,
20s. It's so hard.
oh my goodness. And this is again, like, knowing my daughter's about to enter into this. There's a lot of fear, I think, associated with me as a mum now, and my inadequacy is just all connected to my fear. But yeah, my 20s meant that shit just kept getting thrown. Like, we were due to split up, and then my mum died. Then he, you know, supported me in that. And then I think because me and my sister grew so close through my mum's death, that I was just so set on my daughter having a sister, that I said to my ex, you know, we've got to have another one. She's got to have a sister. Like, I couldn't have survived this chapter without my sister. I want my daughter to have a sister. I don't want her to have a half sister. And so we kind of just had my second daughter, knowing that we most likely wouldn't make it. And then when she was 1, he moved out. Or, you know, the relationship was very, let's say, not as united as it should be throughout my pregnancy. But
that you know, that takes a lot of thought. And, you know, I think that some people choose not to have a second, but you made those choices because of your experiences with your sister. And that's quite, I think, a very emotional
stupid.
No, it's a very, very it's a very emotional decision that you've made. It's a reaction, and we all do things based on reactions or experiences that we've had, right? So, you know, just because I decided not to have a child with my ex-husband, but only because, you know, it didn't make a difference to me when I was younger, when my parents split up. Yes, I did have my brothers, but I didn't have a sister that I was that connected to. And also I hadn't lost a parent. So, you know, you'd gone through all of that, and you'd lost your mum, and, you know, you wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay, or that she had a sibling to have a connection with and have a relationship with. So I find that quite interesting and really emotionally intelligent in terms of the way that you've chosen to make that decision. And no, I don't think it's stupid, because we all make decisions for different reasons. And who says that you can't do something like that? And you've brought these kids up, and your ex has supported you through that journey. So when your mum passed, was that the point where you started to feel inadequate?
I think we all feel under pressure, and we're all questioning ourselves whether we're adequate constantly as soon as we wake up. As soon as we enter into that playground, that school playground, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing that? In itself is a feeling of inadequacy. So I would be thinking that from day one. And I think when my mum died, I was very conscientious of everyone watching me and thinking, is she going to fall apart? You know, she's got 2 kids. Her mum's just broke of alcohol addiction. What's going to happen to her? Like, there was a lot, because we had a lot of social circles, and I was just like, I'm not going to be a product of this tragedy. I'm going to be the most amazing mum ever. And, you know, when I split up with their dad, it was like, oh God, I'm a single mum now. Okay. And I just put on this super mum cape, and I was just constantly, and I just think so many women can relate to that feeling. So it's not so much I've felt inadequate. I haven't, because I call it the get out of jail card, actually, because my kids were just that crazily, like, high achievers that I was just constantly getting people come over. You know, when you've just got a child and they're just like, they're pretty, they're sporty, they're bringing all the gold medals, they're smashing all the tests, they're the lead roles in the play, they're creative, artistic, like they're everything, and everyone's going, wow. And then they're assuming that child must be from some kind of like really structured, you know, great family. And then they see me, who was just like, I looked really young when I was young. I just looked like a kid. So then they'd be like, oh, they'll be like this. They're a credit to you. They're really a credit to you. As if like, oh, you know, they're so good. You're doing so well despite you being so young, despite you being single, despite you not having any money, despite this. And it used to make me think, really? Is that what makes us good parents, is if our kids are ticking all these boxes? And I think we really need to eradicate that sentence, they're a credit to you. I really want that to just be, if anyone gets anything from this podcast, let's just never say that again. They're a credit to you, because we should just be comfortable and feel confident in our ability to be mothers, because let's face it, we've been doing it for flipping centuries, completely separate to what our kids are doing. You know, whether they're high achievers or they're causing mayhem, that shouldn't be a reflection of you as a mother.
You know, for me, that whole word of being an inadequate mum, especially as a step parent, I did feel like that. And there were times where I hated standing in the school playground, because all the mums would be sitting there. You know what it's like. You go to pick up your mum and everyone gets there 20 minutes earlier, and they're all having a little bit of a chat, and, oh, this one's doing the choir, and, oh, is this one doing netball? And, oh, is this one going to, you know, take their 11 plus? And I sort of just stood there and thought, my kids aren't doing any of that stuff. Does that make me a bad mum? But I never wanted to push them in the direction that, you know, I didn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I wanted them to, you know, feel comfortable within themselves and find their own people. And I just feel that the competitiveness of the school playground, of that, it really did make me feel like an inadequate mum. And also, when you saw other kids going on play dates all the time, and then my kids weren't necessarily invited to a party or something, my heart used to sink, and I used to think, is it something that I'm doing wrong? Like you, I went, guys, you do what you want to do. I never made them do anything. I obviously had to teach them respect and the values and everything, but they're little humans that need to grow into themselves. So those inadequacies for me happened when my kids were younger, but also I think carried myself through, and I didn't start learning how to feel more adequate as a parent actually until my kids went into their teenage years. I'm a bit opposite to you because and the pandemic helped me with that because I had to spend time with them at home and understand what was going on with them and really empathize with how they were feeling. And one thing that I did was, and I think that it was one thing that really helped me feel adequate, was that when my youngest was really suffering during the pandemic, we had I'd go into her room and I'd have a bit of a conversation. And I suddenly said, I know you're, and she was obviously, she was 13, 14. So it was that time, that transition where hormones kicked in, any kind of trauma that she'd experienced when she was younger, it was all coming out. And I apologized to her. And she said to me, what are you apologizing for? And I said, well, because as a child, you've come on my journey. You didn't make a choice to come on this journey. You've got your life ahead of you. So if I created any trauma, or if I didn't behave in the right way, or if I didn't do things that you wanted me to do as a mum, and and that affected you, I really am sorry. And I will take accountability and responsibility as a parent, so that you know that everything that I did and every decision I made came from the heart and came from a good place. Because I think that as long as your children know that you love them and that every decision you make comes from a place of care and love, then the way that they perceive you will be different, and then you can feel a lot more adequate.
Yeah, I love that. And when I've heard, I think it's Dr. Becky talk about the importance of repair, I've really tried to incorporate that because I've needed to a lot. And saying sorry, and I had a conversation very recently, and I just said, listen, like, we grew up together, like me and you. I was 20 when I had you. I've grown with you, because there's a difference between my older daughter and my younger daughter. And although my older daughter probably had a really enthusiastic, invested, like, she had a lot of attention, and she probably had a very intense young 20-year-old that just didn't have a clue, like, had no self-esteem, and was growing, whereas my younger daughters had a different version of me. And I just said to my older daughter, like, I'm so sorry if I've made mistakes and said things that have affected you, and that is where this whole concept of an adequate mother comes in. Is like, we have to say to our kids, I am not perfect, because what all that happens is you are their safety net. And this is what Dr. Becky talks about, is the fact that you are their safety net. They don't know any different. So the minute you become, you say, you become angry, or you lash out, or you do something, they can't blame you, because you're the safety net. So they've got to blame themselves. And then that internalizes and develops into anxiety. So I know I'm guilty of that, of lashing out. And I know I'm responsible for potential anxiety that my child experiences and will experience. So I have to own that in order for her to heal from that, and not become an inadequate mother like me and my mother. And, it's just about saying, I fucked up. I shouldn't have reacted like that. I am to blame, not you. Because they will internally blame. They can't blame you because you're the safety net. If they blame you, then they become unsafe. So it really is hard.
Leading on from that, what do you think your kids think about you? What would they say about you as a mum?
Probably annoying, definitely number one. Don't listen. What else do they say about me? It's all negative. It is all negative.
How can it be negative?
You won't get positive from a teenager. And this is, again, I just want to make mums feel, because they do see my social media and they see me and my kids having these laugh and these amazing, like, moments, and we have all this fun, and they're so beautiful, and we, you know, we look so close on camera and we look like the perfect family, but you wouldn't get a positive word said out of their mouths. And that's the reality of teenagers. I read, or I heard, probably heard, I don't do much reading, but I heard that they have to, biologically, teenage have to dislike their mothers in order for them to be able to fly the nest. Because if they didn't think you were completely inadequate and if they didn't think you were stupid, they wouldn't go elsewhere seeking other people. They wouldn't ask other people. They wouldn't ask their aunties or talk to anyone else. So they have to. And then at the age of 23, 24, they're supposed to come back and go, actually, you're a bit of all right, you. So I'm just holding on to, ask me those 5 words when they get to like 23. And I'm confident. I say to them all the time, I know that you think I'm a bit of an idiot. I know that, but I know you're going to love me. I know you're going to think I'm amazing in like just 5 years' time. But I'm just going to wait till then. And if they don't.
So then there's a switch. So my eldest daughter is 21, and biologically she's not mine. I'm her stepmom. And see, I feel that my kids now would, you know, when you look at cards that they write you, like your Mother's Day card, they're not going to say, they might say, Mum, you're annoying, but I love you. Mum, you're crazy, but you cook me nice food. Mum, a negative, but there's got to be, or as we reframe it, we don't say but, we say and. So yes, there is this negative voice that comes through. However, Hayley, deep down in your heart, what I want the listeners to hear, because this will help them, give me, and if you can't think of 5, just what do you think in a positive way they would say about you?
They're lucky to have me. They continuously always thinking about the Mother's Day card. They always say, I hope you know how lucky I am to have you. I think they know that I'm special, and I've raised them in a fierce and special way. And yeah, I think fierce. They think I'm fierce. They think I'm special. They think I'm crazy. They think I'm strong.
So there you go. So they're right. So they're right. They make, you know,
yeah,
and those are, you know, absolutely. So I'm going to give you mine. So my kids, I'll give you the, like we did, the kind of negative side and the positive. So it would be like, my mum is angry, right? And we know that she cares about us. That's why she's getting angry. My mum shouts a lot, and that's because she's trying so hard to be a mum, right? What's a negative? See, I don't focus on the negatives, I focus on the positives. Mum is crazy, but that makes her individual. Mum is always talking, but that means she can do a good job and she can grow her business. So there you go. And I generally feel in my head, like maybe they wouldn't have used those exact words, but I generally feel like, yeah, I am loud, I'm angry, I get frustrated, I lose my shit, but they know that it comes of a place of good. So I don't feel inadequate as a mum anymore. Whereas when they were younger, I did, because I couldn't communicate with them and they couldn't communicate back with me, and they're going through all their own stuff. So I think as mums, we need to focus on the positive stuff, because it's the self-doubt in our heads that tells us that we are inadequate. But the reality is all of those inadequacies come from a good place. They come from a place of care, of love, of nurture, of, you know, of wanting to lift up our kids and make sure that they're the best version of themselves. Your podcast is all about figuring out what it is to be a woman. Now, what have you still got to figure out? And I'm sure that's quite a big open question for you.
Yeah, I think because I had my children so young, and it was interesting. I got interviewed about my ethnicity because I'm quarter Jamaican, and my friend's doing a doctorate in racism in the interpreting profession. And she asked me, what do I identify as? And I said, mom, like before Jamaican or before English, I'm mom. So I think for me, I've just really been figuring out who I am as a person, what it is I want to achieve in life, but not just achieve, because I don't really like that word achieve. What have I got to leave behind? Like what impact am I going to make on the world? What is my inadequacies and what is my trauma and my experiences? What is going to be the positive impact I'm going to leave behind? So yeah, that might mean in a podcast, a book. I do want to write a book. And like even you asking me these questions about the name, that in itself has just unpacked parts of me, like because I don't actually know. I'm new to all this. So you've helped me today, Lisa, understand a little bit of what I am figuring out. I'm buying a home. I'm turning 40 this year, and I've got to buy a home. So that's in itself a big thing. And yeah, my daughter's going off. So my daughter's going off to uni. That's a big thing. There's a lot to learn for me as a woman who's going to be a mom to an adult. Yeah.
And we never stop being mums, right? So we can't just suddenly think it's now like our kids are going off to uni. We're going to be a mum when we're a grandparent. So there is, as a woman, there is so much still to learn,
Your
isn't there? Because
identity is
yeah,
continuously changing, and it's understanding yourself. It doesn't stop. There's not like, oh, I've learned this and then I've got this to learn. No, you're just continuously learning. You should
yeah,
never not learn. You should never be an expert. You should never feel like, oh, I'm finally adequate. No, just be inadequate. Just continue to learn. That's it.
yeah. Listen, thank you for sharing. I mean, a lot of stuff that you've talked about, has touched me. Your podcast, I'm sure, will help a lot of mums. And I know there's lots of episodes coming up. And you are a wonderful mum from what I have seen and watching your journey over social media and getting to know you as a mum as well. And I can safely say we are both very much adequate mums.
Yes, we are.
Thinking about the word inadequate took me back to when I was a younger mum, and all the fears that I had with the kids and knowing the right way to parent and the right way to behave. And I remember that my parents would often say to me, you need to keep calm. It was all positive reinforcement. And I never quite got it. I found it really hard. So for me, my inadequacies were kind of triggered when I was much a younger mum. So I guess in my 30s and 40s. And now, having chatted with Hayley, I've realised that why the hell was I beating myself up? So as Mother's Day is approaching, that gets me thinking a lot, and I'm sure it does. It can trigger a lot of mums. We start questioning ourselves because as we lead up to it, what's Mother's Day going to be like? And my kid's going to flower me with cards and gifts and flowers? Are they going to do something special for me? Because we're heavily reliant on them doing stuff for us on that day, but it doesn't always turn out that way. And I would really let it be a time of reflection. Don't expect your kids to shower you with love and kisses and hugs and gifts, because they may, first of all, may not be at an age where they're going to want to do that. At school when they're younger, the teachers help them write all these lovely little cards. But as they get older, it's not something that comes into their minds. So I think the best thing for you to do on Mother's Day is to acknowledge and appreciate yourself, reflect on all the good stuff that you've done as a mum, all the love, the care, because whatever decision you make, it comes from the heart. So think about those times and don't expect anything from your kids. And if you do feel that you do want a bit of love and appreciation on that day, why not ask your kids for a hug, for some kind of affection that would make you feel good? Because hugs are really special. And if you ask someone for a hug, and if they're kind of not feeling it, say, no, really give me a hug. I guarantee you that you'll feel the love from your child. And it doesn't matter if we have to ask for it, because we're mums and that's what we have to do. I've been so overwhelmed by all of our new listeners that we have for Real Women's Stories podcast. What I'd love to do is really make this an interactive, fun community where we can share our stories. That is the basis of this platform of Real Women's Stories. So if you would love to get in touch with me, I've got an email address. It's TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. Or if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, if you go into the description of the episode, you will see right at the top of the description a little kind of link where you can press send a text. And so now you can send us a text. It's that easy. So if you want to get in touch with us, then just send us a text. I have got a coaching episode coming up. So if you stay tuned and if you follow the show, then you will be able to hear my next episode of Real Women's Stories in a couple of days' time.